Hello all far and wide, and welcome back to another episode of Outcome It's Not Black and White. My name is Matt Schiff and I'm your host for today and every day thereafter. Lucky you. Where my role is to bridge the gap between teasing out the mindsets, principles, tools and stories that high-performing individuals have used to shape their current reality and deliver that to you through your ears. I hope that you enjoy. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Outcome Podcast. On this particular episode, you will hear the voices of co-founders of a startup called JOBJACK. As a brief introduction, JOBJACK was created as a platform for job seekers and employers to connect. The co-founders, Christiaan and Heine, realized after organizing very many waitering jobs for friends and family that there was a need for a singular platform where job seekers can find available positions. JOBJACK is a marketplace for entry-level positions, focusing on posting jobs that require no tertiary education. And by staying up to date with technology, they have found and created an easy-to-use platform for users to register, creating a JOBJACK CV, and giving them free access to apply for positions within their very own areas. Companies have the same option to register on the JOBJACK platform as well and post for these available positions, giving them access to reliable and relevant candidates. This conversation was absolutely fantastic. I know both Christiaan and Heine from back in my varsity days, but how these two individuals came to be, they actually met while doing their auditing articles, and it's something we touched on a little bit within our conversation as well. I thought was quite interesting. Both studied at Stellenbosch, and after playing around with various ideas within their own varsities days, Heine, as an example, tried to sell single cigarette vending machines, and Christiaan started his own clothing company while selling tobacco pipes as well. They came up with the idea JOBJACK and approached one another at a particular time in the middle of 2000 or towards the start of 2018 to get the idea off the ground. This conversation was my first live recording done with the guys from JOBJACK, so thanks in advance to them for enduring the hour-long conversation also. We spoke a little bit about more its grassroots level from which it began, but unpacked a little bit more around their mission and values as well. During the time, the unemployment rate within South Africa, the news around unemployment rate in South Africa had just been released. So it was a topic we had covered as well as the youth unemployment rate. And these two have racked up some accolades, although they have just been shy of 2 years of their existence. Heine has been mentioned in the top 35, under 35, through the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, online magazine or SAICA articles. The guys have also been nominated on the appsafrica.com Innovation Awards, which essentially celebrates the best mobile and technology for Africa in changing the continent and changing their socioeconomic environment. So from the humble idea of helping out simple friends and family with waitering jobs has sort of boomed into quite an exciting platform to really make a tangible difference to those who have struggled to find jobs within the areas within they live. I hope that you enjoy the conversation. Chris, Heine, good morning. Thank you for joining me on the Outcome Podcast this morning. How's it going, guys?
Awesome, man. It's going great. Thanks so much for having us. It's really cool.
Absolute pleasure.
Always good.
We're sitting out here, for those that can't see, we're sitting out just off Tiger Valley at the moment. I'm busy recording the next stage of the Outcome Podcast with both Chris and Heine from JOBJACK. You would have heard a bit about them in the introduction, and it's an absolute privilege to be sitting down with you guys. I've got so many questions, so many exciting little touch points to go through, especially with the latest news about unemployment rates and how JOBJACK came to be, your own personal histories, and we'll sort of flow with it as we go about. Definitely the first place I would love to start. Heine, you're due to get married in just less than 30 days, in just a month.
Yes.
How are you feeling? What is going through your mind at this point?
I'm prepared. I'm just kidding. I'm very excited. Almost everything has been arranged, so the stress of getting everything ready for the wedding is almost done, and now it's just enjoying the last month and and looking forward to every part of it.
Yeah, Heine thinks he's going to enjoy it, but I'm organising his bachelor's, so he still needs to be humbled a little bit.
Yeah. So when is the bachelor's due?
Oh, that's a surprise. That's a surprise.
No, there's just so many weekends left.
I'm sure the nerves are a little bit there, but it sounds very exciting, and congratulations to you. And Chris, congratulations for organising the
Don't congratulate me yet. Congratulate me yet.
Can't wait to see what comes of it. Just some exciting news for those that are listening. Guys, I want to start right back at the beginning, because I remember being at Stellenbosch with the two of you, and we didn't necessarily come across each other's paths too often, but Chris, you and I had worked on the SRC or in a variety of sort of leadership platforms within Stellenbosch. Let's start back there. Can we perhaps maybe use the launchpad as where did you guys come from? How did Stellenbosch come into play? And what was the university experience like for you guys back then?
From my side, I enjoyed it a lot. I obviously went to Stellenbosch to study, so that's how Stellenbosch came into my life. And I studied B accounting or BREC, and in order to become a chartered accountant. During my first year, I wasn't sure that was the route that I wanted to go, because I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know, I wasn't 100% sure which route to go. But at the end of the day, I decided to go the CA route, because the thinking was that it would prepare me best and give me the most exposure from a degree perspective with regards to different businesses, especially during your articles, to prepare me for the next stage of my life, which was entrepreneurship.
Okay, interesting. And Chris?
Yeah, likewise. So even in high school, or just leaving high school, I was actually having this inner struggle between going to study drama and accounting. Accounting being, this kind of safe route, and drama being kind of a passion. But I found, let's go do something that gives us a good base, and from there we can work to what gives us joy. And we found that now. But obviously getting there was a process. So we didn't even meet at varsity.
Wow, okay.
Either Heine is a year or two older than I am. So we just missed each other here and there. And then we met in doing our audit articles after studies.
Yeah, I just had cool friends at the varsity.
No, I had no friends, and that's why we kind of
the perfect integration.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. In our preparation for today's discussion, you had written to me in a little note, and I hope you don't mind me saying, but you were hustling since conception. Do you care to elaborate a little bit on what that means, or perhaps your experience in hustling from birth?
I was just negotiating with my mother as to when I'm coming out. No, I'm just kidding. I've always known I wanted to be an entrepreneur. In my younger years, I was leaning towards, I'm going to say engineering, but more like inventing stuff, and that then turned into inventing business ideas and so forth. And it started from school, from selling probably about 1,500 arm bangles in school over a period of a week, up until a point where those arm bangles were banned in school because everyone wore them, to tackling lots of different ideas, because ideas, if you have an open mind and going through life, you encounter a lot of problems, and if you look at those problems with an open mind, usually an idea flows from those problems. So I've got a big bookshelf of ideas, and I always believe that you must bring an idea up until the point where you can make a decision whether you should pursue that idea or not, and whether it's researching the idea for a week, or just thinking about it for a day, or actually trying something to figure out whether this is a good idea or not. So there's from selling honeypots door to door, to at the end of the day spending about 2 years during my varsity years building single cigarette vending machines, to JOBJACK, and then many more things in between. So
that's very, very interesting. And I think it's quite, I'm always fascinated how people get into it. And you say you have this sort of ideas bookshelf, or this, you have this sort of mindset where you can pitch this idea, be courageous enough to believe it, and then follow through with action. Did that ever come from your parents, or was that something within the family that was just always there to push the boundaries in a way?
I'm not sure. So my father was a very successful businessman, but he followed the corporate route. So he wasn't an entrepreneur himself, but he did run a big company. So not from my parents, but both me and my brother are entrepreneurial in extremely opposite different ways. Where I'm focused on tech, and he's like, also he's a retailer. He likes to work with things he can touch, but no, I'm not sure where it comes from.
I want to come back to your single cigarette vending machine in Stellenbosch, because I'm sure that was quite an interesting experience when that came about for 2 years. But prior to that, Chris, you have quite an extensive background with a clothing store and selling tobacco pipes, I believe, as well. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So likewise, but I think my experience came from my father was kind of an entrepreneur, not necessarily selling things, but doing his own ventures. And so when varsity hit, he gave us, X amount for food, the bare minimum, and the rest, was up to us. So one of the things I started doing was selling tobacco pipes to first friends and then to various residences, even making the kind of end of year function gifts. So like pretty much at scale, engraving and selling tobacco pipes, and that was pretty cool. But then my moral convictions kind of got to me later, so I was like, let's take a different route. And so I started a clothing company or two actually, where we kind of focused on the one was just experimental kind of those two-tone shirts, those farmer two-tone shirts. We kind of modernized them, and we started selling them by the boatload. People wanted it, I guess, as Fallies are doing it so well now, and people like that nostalgic look. And then moving over to kind of, so we had a kind of a faith-like brand, which we wanted to just get out into the market. And from that, we started selling to quite a lot of churches, quite a lot of individuals. And then from that, I also started selling or making clothes for entire residences. So, and that's kind of mass orders. But that took a lot of time. So I did end up doing my 3-year course in 4 years with the leadership and involvement in business. But it was totally worth it because, the experience you learn there is what, gets you through. But yeah, so, and then that ended kind of when I started doing my articles, because then you have to focus. And I had to do my honors part-time through UNISA as well while doing my articles, because my father gave me 4 years and I used my 4 years.
Right. It's interesting. I think that I reflect back now to those early studies, and it seems like a dream how long ago it was. Firstly, it wasn't that long, but it just feels like it was so long ago. But also, if I think about the times where I could have sold something or pitched an idea or followed through, I must admit, my personality was invested a lot into sports, so multi-sports. But then it was perhaps the SRC or some sort of leadership committee, but there was never really that entrepreneurial, curiosity. And that's, I guess, my upbringing, my personality. And it's so fascinating to hear how on the exact same campus during the exact same period, there are people that are doing things because they've got a 4-year university span, or they've just been curious by it as well. Did any of you have any particular resources that you used when either starting the vending machine, the cigarette vending machine? Was it like I've seen this before, I want to sort of copy and paste the business model and see if it works, or perhaps the starting a business in clothing, selling the clothing? How did you know where to simply begin? What was that first step?
So I think, well, from my side, and I think myself and I think about these things pretty clearly, and he explained it earlier, is anyone can have an idea. It's to really take the next step to actually go look at how to implement that idea. And I think for both of us, it maybe came just a bit more naturally to take that next step into looking, okay, how are we going to do this? Because a lot of people say, how did you start it? And then you're like, well, I just Googled places to make clothes. And I drew a design, and I Googled places to help design logos.
Right.
And the first 5 contacts, I phoned up and chatted to them. And once I figured, it's actually pretty easy, then I actually just did it. So I think it's literally taking the next step of Googling or just speaking to one or two people that puts that the possibility just into your grasp. I'm not sure if that resonates with you.
Yeah, I think I can give you a little quick practical story of the single cigarette vending machines. I remember in my first year, a lot of people in the res were smoking hubbly, and a lot of times at night they would run out of coals or flavor or whatever, and they would want to, send someone to the store, and it was always a big hassle. So walking back from class one day, I thought, a vending machine that sells coals and flavor, and then that's a good idea, and then between class and the rest, I thought it through and realized that's a stupid idea. So, but then out of that flew, but what about, because at that stage, a lot of people were smoking socially. So when they go out, they smoke one or two cigarettes, but otherwise they don't smoke. And then I thought, well, out of that idea came this idea. I did, as Christiaan said, did some research, found that there is such a machine in South Africa. I bought it. It was a manual machine. It worked maybe 70% of the time. So people were knocking. So I put it up in the res. People were knocking at my door constantly because the thing wasn't working. And then that was a problem. But I still did a lot of sales. So there was something that could work, but it wasn't working effectively. So you can't scale it at all. And then I literally taught myself everything necessary to build over the next 2 years that thing via Google, via looking at videos. I designed the PC boards, had them printed, designed the layout of the machine, had the parts laser cut and printed. The first prototype I built didn't even fit into together. It was useless. Programmed the chips to run the thing, taught myself lots of different skills and able to build that machine or machines at the end of the day.
Right. Well, I mean, I love what you guys are saying. At least that's kind of the reason I alluded to the question was I in preparation for this conversation right now, found a lot of your own personalities quite clearly in how you went about starting whatever venture you may have to what JOBJACK does now for the individual who's perhaps a job seeker or someone who's looking to get a job. And we'll touch on JOBJACK in just a bit. But I do think that it's exceptionally, it's almost like a golden thread. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen it, it's your personalities as well. But before we jump right into what JOBJACK is and how it is, I want to hear about where the two of you met about JOBJACK. How did that conversation happen? And how did JOBJACK, the name, come to be?
So as I mentioned earlier, myself and Heine met while doing our audit articles. So that's a 3-year kind of preparation to become a CA, and you paid not minimum wage. Obviously, we're much more fortunate, but you kind of forced to say, okay, what after this? What next? And I mean, the ideas have always been flowing. So from hindsight, he's always been writing down his ideas, and myself as well on my phone. As soon as I think of something, I go about that. And so Heine was third year at the time, and I was second year in audit articles. And so one day I was thinking of this idea and of like a competition, kind of just to get people to hear of various competitions, because you always find out about these competitions too late. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I went to Heine to kind of just ask his advice, because we'd become pretty good friends by then. And he was like, that's cool, but no. He doesn't want to get involved at all. He's doing his own thing. And I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. I'll just carry on. And as I went deeper into the research, I realized, okay, this is just not going to work. It's too complex. And so I went on to the next idea that I've written down, and that was for something that came across when my mother-in-law she organizes a few events here and there, and she just a month or two before that, she asked me if I could organize a few waiters that I still knew at varsity to help her out. And I organized a few guys, and afterwards the payment just came through me, and a week or two later they started messaging me, and their friends started messaging me, and their friends' friends started messaging me, asking me if I had more of these kind of quick or entry-level jobs. And I was like, surely there is some kind of platform for this. And I did some extensive research, and I found there's no dominating player that's catering for these kind of jobs. So I went to Heine, and because I knew I wanted someone to do this with me. Obviously, I always speak of, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you should surround yourself with people that are better than you. And in came Mr. Bellingen, and so so we started seeing the need for this, and we started kind of testing it out and doing some manual jobs. So I mean, while auditing other companies, we were kind of hustling and organizing a few jobs over the phone, over WhatsApp, and we really saw the proof of concept come to life. And I think the name came from one day. I mean, we were spitballing a bunch of names, and we didn't want to limit ourselves to specific aspects. Whether it just be for waiters or whether it just be for promotional staff. We wanted something that could scale and that could go wider as we grow as a company. And we wanted something that it just says, I seen it like it just it just sounds nice.
JOBJACK.
Yeah, and so I told Anne one day, I'm like, what about JOBJACK? And he was like, yeah, say it again. JOBJACK. So yeah, it was just, and I mean, it's kind of jack of all trades, jack in the box. It's just this nice connotation that people have with the word jack and job. And so it was just came together, came to life.
Right. And I mean, 2 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, you mentioned that, coming into your auditing period, it's now time to focus. And it's also a period where all of a sudden this idea sparks in life. Be it the universe, be it something that's telling you that there is a need for it, and the two of you decide to embark upon this adventure, which is now JOBJACK.
Yeah.
And what does that next step look like? Is it let's get an office and have another?
So we, as Christiaan mentioned already, as first step, first validation, we organized a few jobs over the phone, and that gave us the courage to take the next step. So we had an MVP built, which is minimum viable product. It's like the most basic version of getting something out there into the market. So the next phase was to start putting it online so that we can start looking at automating everything. But we realized that doesn't happen quickly. So we outsourced the first version. We started at the end of our articles, and I finished up my articles at the end of the year, and then from the next year I dived fully 100% into JOBJACK, and we launched on the 6th of February, our first version, which was terrible, but it was there. And
it was something.
So we worked from my apartment, so I had my desk there, and in the first month we started getting jobs and started filling them and started getting people signing up and placing them in these positions. At that stage, we were focusing on once-off jobs. Yeah. So extra waiters for wedding, marshals for marathon, and so forth. That's how we started off with. But yeah, just to summarize the start, we went for it.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I think Matt, to kind of answer another part of your question was, and you're right, like we had to focus kind of. I remember at a time our managing partner sat me down, and because he'd heard of this little thing, that I had on the side, and he said, "Listen, Christiaan, so you are, you in your second years of articles, or that might have been the beginning of my third year. You've just gotten married a few months ago, and I was writing my second board exam, or I was busy with my honors, I think then as well, kind of full time. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to take on this?" And, I told him, and he said, "Can't it wait?" And then I just told him, well, no, this is just something that really can't wait. I mean, there's a massive need, as stats are showing. And luckily I did surround myself with someone like Heine, that really, found the heart that I had for it as well, to really, take ownership. And I mean, that's part of our recipe for success is really bouncing off each other, feeding off each other. And yeah, I think our next step at that point was to say, okay, cool, let's see for the next at least 6 months where we can get it, where the verticals are, where the possibilities are, and what we need to work on from our MVP. And I think it ties into thinking, a lot of people think, okay, shucks, I need this massive amount of capital to start anything. I mean, for the clothing company, even, I didn't have anything. I got a few pre-orders, and from that you get money, and then you start something small, piece by piece. And for this as well, we made it, not a lot, but a little bit through the manual processes, through the manual jobs, and with that we could prove a source of income. And we went to an angel investor, and we just said, okay, we just need very, very small amount, which was easily actually repayable by us should it not work. But should it work, it wasn't a lot that we needed for the MVP, and with the MVP we could then prove further, and etc. and etc.
Right. And you say 6th of February last year, 2018.
Yeah, 2018. Yeah.
So it's really 2 years into its lifespan.
Yeah,
that's incredible. That's amazing. And I suppose after that first 6 months, the proof was in the pudding, if you would say. There was clearly a need for it. But in a country like ours, in certain areas, provinces, regions like ours, obviously access to internet, access to postal services, which we know is not the greatest. What was your thinking around how do you overcome these barriers?
I think to summarize it, we were thinking of the future. So we knew that so our target market is more the youth, which has a high penetration of internet usage and cell phones and so forth. So that was the first part of our thinking with regards to bringing this problem and tackling it with an online solution. And then also we thought of looking at the future in terms of so we considered building it as an SMS type of USSD service where internet connection is not necessarily required, but we thought, we can build that, but in 3 years or in 5 years, that's going to be redundant because the world is moving and South Africa is moving all the more to a society that is connected via phone. If someone doesn't have their own phone, a family phone or a friend's phone, but it's moving towards a place where most people do have access to the internet in some way.
I think, so as Heine mentioned earlier, in the beginning we were focusing on once-off jobs. So it was a little bit more focused towards students, which all do have access to data or smartphones. And as we grew, we started seeing, the need from various, kind of market groups that we kind of didn't include in the beginning, always kind of possibly in the back of our head. And then we really started noticing that they do have access to, to at least phones with web browsers. So we purposefully didn't build mobile apps yet. We based it on a web app, so it's easily accessible by any phone that has a web browser. And we were surprised by the amount of, lower LSM kind of groups that really do have access to data light models, that can really use our app as well as any person can on a desktop as well. But as Heine mentioned, it was really thinking of what's going to be a sustainable model to go for, even though not everyone can. What we also learned is most people have, even one phone between a family or a cousin or whatever the case may be, and that's enough, that's sufficient.
And the web browser approach, we built everything mobile first so that it works well on a mobile, because I think 83 or something % of our users access JOBJACK from a phone.
Brilliant. Wow, that's an exceptionally high number.
Yeah.
And that's awesome to think. Like you say, from anywhere, one family member between however many could have access to that. What was your experience with marketing JOBJACK? Because, one thing is to have the platform available. How were people finding you there? And where did you learn to do that? Was it also Googling how to market?
It was, amongst others. But I think, so there's such a need for our platform. And I think, one of the first ways we started marketing was just over Facebook and Instagram, your socials. And that, it caught on pretty quick. But as we kind of pivoted our focus towards more permanent jobs, and to bit more, of the lower LSM groups, that was almost, mostly word of mouth. It was really, actually providing people with a job. You get so much, scams nowadays of people promising jobs or advertising fake jobs. So I think that helped a lot, and it's continually helping. But something, we started playing around with as well was Google Ads. And honestly, that's our two basic advertising models is Facebook and Google Ads, and at the moment that's sufficient. We have an incredible marketing leader that works with us, Carla. She's incredible with regards to content, and she's got an honors in marketing from Stellenbosch as well. I think our whole team comes from Marty's.
Yeah,
If I'm correct, yeah,
Really?
all 10 of us.
Carla was our first hire.
Yeah.
So our first hire was someone with a marketing degree, which obviously helped our cause.
Pretty helpful.
And my sister is also in marketing, so we kind of leached off, other people's knowledge, which is probably something you can do. But yeah, because it's such a need, we never really found super difficult to market our product. But that is something that we're continually working on, and people have told us, things that we might be taking for granted, we actually just accidentally fell into.
Right.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can add to that. I mean, we sometimes do flyer drops. We work with community leaders and community centers just to make sure everyone has an opportunity to apply for a position. Because you want, if there's a job in, let's say, Philippi, you want the people from Philippi to have the opportunity to apply for that job. What we also are doing now, so with the companies that we work with, when someone comes to apply to ask if they have a job, then they refer them to JOBJACK to apply for the job, which really helps as well.
Even something we've started playing with is every user, not every user, but every user that wants to can sign up as a promoter, and they get a unique promoter code, and for every person, then they can share that on WhatsApp or over their socials, and every person that signs up with their unique sign-up code, they get, let's say, a rand or two in data. So that's something, it was an obvious solution for us. So we started trying it out, and we didn't even think anything of it. And we've heard, wow, that's a pretty cool idea. But I think, we've really just been blessed with great ideas to help.
That's fascinating. I mean, you said it's an obvious idea. It was an obvious idea. That to me is it's incredible. You're getting word of mouth is so powerful as well, especially if it's going to help a community or family member as well. That why wouldn't somebody go out and be like, here is JOBJACK, try it, just see what happens from it. And, if I get a bit of an incentive from it by getting 1 rand or 2 rand with the data here and there, why not? That's awesome. That's very, very cool, guys. And having your team with coming in, your sister assisting, Carla helping out with the marketing, and sort of treating it, I suppose, trial and error. Were there any particular failures that you had gotten, quote unquote? Were there any particular difficulties or barriers that you had to pivot from? So, I mean, just a fact of the matter is that if the entire team is from Stellenbosch, did you have any difficulty approaching areas like Philippi or approaching certain places around Cape Town or South Africa at large in marketing JOBJACK?
Christiaan and I, we've literally gone into the townships and went from house to house to drop off flyers and speak to the people living in some of these areas to get the direct feedback, if I can put it like that. And then we, with the promoters that we've had that, for example, went and did fly drops in areas that we were not at, obviously we're interacting with them, we're getting feedback from them. And what we also do is we do lots of follow-ups with our users, where we give them a call and we chat to them, and just to get that feedback from the ground, if I can put it like that, to assist us with making our decisions.
Yeah, I think something that we really go into every day is we know we don't know everything. I mean, we still don't know what we don't know, but we know that, we do come out of a privileged background, and we've really tried to incorporate, just the differences in the cultural kind of backgrounds to really be open to receiving feedback in a way. I mean, the way we've modeled out or built out our platform is way different than what we initially thought, just because we built it, or we thought of building it in a way that we would understand it or we would use it. And that's not, not close to what it is now, because we've really learned to incorporate that there is a difference, and that we really need to interact and be open to learn from people that might not have the education that we have, but they just look at the world differently. So I think with regards to that kind of marketing, it hasn't been too much of a struggle, because we've been so open and been so, transparent to how we operate and how we interact or need the help of community leaders, as Heine mentioned earlier. I think one of the struggling points in the beginning and still is now is to get companies to change the way they think. I think one of the the biggest, stumbling blocks, or not even stumbling blocks, it's just barriers we have to get over is at the moment, the companies are taking in paper CVs. They are, going through these paper CVs. They're not spending any direct, expenses or cash on that process. And it's getting them to change their mindset of, listen, there is a way that's more efficient for the job seeker and for you as a company. So that barrier to entry, but we can probably touch on that a bit later.
There's definitely, I think there's probably a few more, but two that come to mind is there's obviously a sustainability aspect from it, going green, like printing out paper. But then there's also that of the cost incurred to apply.
Absolutely.
And I've obviously seen that. I think pretty earlier this year, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were out on SABC4 at the ENCA just to give you a bit more information about JOBJACK and the cost of applying for a job.
Absolutely.
Can you dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so the norm in South Africa at the moment is for job seekers to print paper CVs, and then they either walk or take a taxi to the local businesses and drop off these paper CVs. So there's two major problems with regards to that approach for a job seeker. The first one is it's ineffective. So job seekers maybe reach 5 or 10 businesses, but then at the end of the day, it's the 11th business that actually has a job, but they never connect. And then secondly, it's very expensive. So both The Economist and City Press recently released articles where they estimate the average entry-level job seeker spends 550 Rand per month on printing and transport and internet costs in search of jobs. Now, if you just take that 550 Rand per month times 12 months a year times the 6 million entry-level job seekers in South Africa, that means that they're wasting up more than 40 billion Rand per year, which these job seekers obviously do not have, which means they end up sitting at home, not looking for a job because they cannot afford to look for a job. So from the job seeker side, that's obviously a big problem, and that's why we don't take in any paper or PDF CVs. We're trying to take away that cost of applying for jobs on the one side, and then on the other side, giving people access to jobs that are actually nearby to where they live, because transport, not only with regards to initially getting that job, but the transport cost after you got the job is also a very big problem. A lot of people get a job, at the end of the month, the transport cost is more than their salary, and then they leave the job. And then from the business perspective, I mean, a lot of companies we work with only take and look at paper CVs. They sift through boxes of paper CVs, slow, ineffective, and it leads to them not being able to fill all of their vacancies that they have available. And it's big companies, and some of them literally have thousands of unfilled positions because they're not finding relevant applicants, because they're only exposed to the applicants that can afford to apply for a job, which is in South Africa actually almost unacceptable, because how can there be thousands of unfilled vacancies in a country with a 1 billion% unemployment rate? So I think that's the summary.
I've got chills to think about now, and we'll loop in again. I'm deliberately putting off the company side of it just for now. But can you perhaps explain what a job seeker is actually doing? So if they log onto the web browser, what does it look like for them? Is it an entry form? Is it explain who you are?
If they go into the website, then they can click on find a job, and we immediately just take them to a sign-in page or a register page where they just have to put in their name, email, and the location. And once they're on, they can immediately see all of the jobs available. So from part-time jobs to permanent jobs to once-off jobs, categorized differently. But in order for them to apply for these jobs, we lead them to fill in or complete their profile. So their profile would be from a profile picture that we try and help them upload to more information, just statistics about themselves. Where exactly do they live? Do they have their own transport, or do they use public transport? What nationality they are, what their second language or third language might be. Just statistics like that. And then we ask them whether they have training. And we put in, so most of the input we get, we try and lead them with possible options, because, waiter might be spelled in 50 different ways. And I mean, it's not their fault. It's just something they've never learned. So we try and help them as much as we can. We do have also, just a kind of an input box of about 100 or 250 words where they can write something about themselves as well to showcase that. But then we have anything from training to previous work experience, to previous education where they can input that as well, and then their attributes or their interests and their strengths to really help them to connect them to relevant jobs. So we really try and not just, stuff anyone into any job that, could possibly, help them. We really try to gather in as much information as possible to really enable these job seekers to get connected to a sustainable job that fits them. So that's basically what the profile comes down to. So at the end of the day, they've got kind of a one-pager, profile that has more information than most CVs available. And then we use that to help them to apply for the relevant jobs.
To add to that, as Christiaan said, it's a very comprehensive batch of data that we capture so that we can match them, but also jobs specifically. When they apply for jobs, there might be 3 or 4 or 5 additional questions that pop up specific to that job. It might be, for example, if it's a call center job, we might ask them to read something and record a voice note on the platform so that we can judge their ability to speak English and so forth, or just some specific questions that enable us to match people more accurately with the jobs that are relevant.
And can a person apply for more than one job at the same time?
Yes.
Or can they choose waiter, barman, just select the suite of jobs you have available and then fill out the profile and then submit that?
They can, yes, but we are working all the more towards a place where we can guide them so that they only apply to jobs that are relevant to them, to also help manage their expectations.
Right.
Because obviously we now have all of this data, so if someone applies to a job that's irrelevant, then they won't get the job because there's someone that's relevant for that specific job. So to guide them and help manage expectations.
And I think that's really, really important as well, obviously, because if you think about perhaps someone who's desperate, they're going to select 4 out of the 5 boxes because I'm hoping to get something. But having that sort of that support and that guidance, I'm sure makes a massive, massive difference. Now, I think it's a perfect opportunity to include now the introduction to how companies get involved. And you already mentioned thousands of applications that they're sifting through that old paperback that are sometimes, they have a particular template which companies like to see, or they're looking for something particular. I personally don't think that a CV, a hardcore paperback CV, represents the person's personality either, nor does it really say much about experience or opportunity to grow or learn. So having someone in the room is also a massive difference. And how have you experienced that conversation with companies? So has there been pushback, or has there been an openness or an acceptance to we understand, but maybe next year or maybe the year after, or I need to talk to someone? Is it a...
So with regards to that, it's always hard to get a foot in the door. Companies are busy. HR people are really busy. So what we try and do obviously is get in from the top, and we've noticed that once we showcase the value in and the simplicity of the process, the companies do really, try and catch on. But I think it's for companies to kind of move away from, but it's working. We're getting enough paper CVs. And we understand that, but it's costing these people a lot of money that they don't have. And it's taking up, unnecessary time, from you, where you can really just as easily spend 5 minutes going onto your account and seeing the profiles that have already been screened, to just pick up the cream of the crop, if you will. We found companies that are just, blatantly, no, it's just another recruitment agency. But these are the companies that sometimes just don't take the time to really let us showcase them. We found that if we have 10 minutes sitting in front of someone and we can actually show them the process, they catch on. Sure. They're really interested because it's a massive issue. And because they know, that these job seekers, even though they might seem relevant, and Heine mentioned it earlier, might leave after the first month because of their transport costs. In one of the pilots that we did with one of Africa's largest retailers, we were able to place, I think, 54% of the people that we placed could walk to work.
Wow.
It's not always possible, but that's something we really do focus on for the sustainability or the stickiness of the person that receives the work, so that they really stay, because that's invaluable to to a company.
Yeah. Wow.
I think to add to that, 65% of those candidates we placed, the feedback was that they would never have gotten the job because they were not able to go and drop off a paper CV, but the company only looked at paper CV. So because the job was on JOBJACK, they got access to the job and they got the job.
Interesting.
Which is quite cool.
Just out of interest, have you guys got a recording somewhere or a tally of how many people have been placed, actual like numbers of people that have been placed?
It's difficult. So we obviously prioritize, and tracking our data off the bat wasn't the priority, but we did start doing that now. So for this month,
we've placed about 70 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
But it's something we're getting there, and it's growing by almost 100% a month. So we're really getting there. Some value we add to companies. I mean, if you look at the feedback that we've gotten, the average company spends about 4 hours on that kind of cycle, going through these paper CVs and phoning up businesses. With us, they spend about 5 minutes of their time, and usually they take anything between 2 to 3 weeks. Gathering enough paper CVs and organizing interviews. With us, it's anything between 24 to, let's say, 72 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really, we're improving, by the week, I want to say. So it's really great.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very cool.
Now, for one of the clients we were working with, just an interesting stat. Before us, they were used to about 63% of candidates that they arranged an interview with to actually pitch for that interview.
Wow.
And through us, it was 91% of the candidates that arranged to actually pitch for the interview. So it's just, there's lots of these little
and the
stats,
candidates that passed the interview before us was about 40%, and after us it was about 94%.
That's incredible.
So
That's cool. That's awesome. And it's in the stats, as you said. If you're a stats man or woman and you like to hear those numbers, then that's enough to give you chills. So I'm sitting here just completely with. Chill, it's incredible. What is the average turnaround time? So if someone has to apply via the web browser, they submit their profile. It obviously depends on, I suppose, like the industry or the job type. But is there, and it's an average time where Matthew, who's applied for a waiting job, have you guys been able to sort of figure that one out yet, do you think?
It is South Africa. There's more job seekers than jobs available. So what we try to focus on is giving everyone feedback, even if it is bad feedback. Okay. So even if it's to say that your job application was unsuccessful, because we've realized that the norm is people go drop off paper CVs, but they never hear back. So they don't know what's cooking. So a big part of what we're trying to do is to keep the job seekers in the loop. That said, it does differ quite a bit from company to company, because one company might have a recruiting cycle of a week, where another company might decide to do 4 or 5 rounds of interviews over the period of a month. So working on getting that down as quickly as possible, but it depends on the company at this stage.
Yeah. To give you an idea, Matt, so at the moment we're sitting at about 60,000 users, and which is amazing. But as I mentioned, there are more job seekers than job givers in the country. So we're really trying to get that balance, and we really try and add value where it was not successful. So, and I mean the turnaround time, as you mentioned, also depends on the company. If they take their time, then it is time taken. So it's something that we try and balance on both sides. We're trying to remind companies as well to really give feedback, and then likewise to job seekers to really keep their spirits up. Because I mean, at the end of the day, what we're trying to create is hope.
Yeah, of course.
If we with all the clients we're working with and piloting with, and in the process of rolling them out, just the ones that we're working with at the moment, if we were to roll them all out, have them fully rolled out, and work with them for about a year, we'll probably do between 20 and 25,000 placements, which is still short of the 60,000 users we have.
Sure.
But that said, obviously, that's the reason why we are working hard to grow as well.
Yeah. Would you guys still consider JOBJACK a startup?
Yes.
You would?
Yeah,
very much so.
10 people in the office.
Yeah.
A database of 60,000 users.
Yeah, we would. So I mean, we to give you an idea, so we live in Kenya as well, in Nairobi in Kenya. We have Emmanuel heading up operations there, and how we see ourselves as a startup is, besides the financial implications of us having to only work at scale, and we're not at the scale where we need to be at, is we're really in still a growth phase, still a learning phase, still a testing phase. So every day, every week at least, there's something new we're testing to see where we can add value to the market. And I mean, yes, we do try and add processes and to help us function as an organization. We're blessed enough to come out of a background where we have seen these processes work and not work in the auditing world. But absolutely, I mean, the startup is, Facebook still sometimes refers to themselves as a startup. So if they can, then surely, I mean, we still got some time to play with the coin.
Just to give you an idea, I think I looked yesterday, we've got more than 60 projects mapped out that our dev team needs to tackle, and that's going to take years probably.
Sure.
So there's still a lot that needs to be done.
Right. And I love the fact that you now mentioned Nairobi, because there was one thing I wanted to bring up as well, is what does the African footprint look like for JOBJACK? Is it something that you guys are considering, maybe not in the next 2 months, but in the next 2 years? Is there that goal to broaden, hypothetically, the horizons into Africa, or really try and focus on South Africa first?
So our vision, JOBJACK's vision, is to employ the world, starting right here in Mzansi, the tip of Africa. And obviously we first have to figure out South Africa before we can really go flat out into any other country. But the problem definitely exists in, for example, Nairobi in Kenya. And earlier this year I actually went to Nairobi to go look and see for myself. But also speaking with businessmen in Tanzania, in Nigeria, the same problem exists in those countries. But to add to that, what we also realized is even in first world countries, there's not a dominating player in the entry-level job market. There's no one dominating it the way that LinkedIn is dominating it. So we see a gap for that as well. I mean, now I went to the US last year, and Burger King and Starbucks, we're hiring posters in their windows. When you buy fast food from Taco Bell, they literally print on the slip, "We're hiring." Christiaan went to Amsterdam last year. This year. This year, the same. I actually just returned from Singapore. The same. Like
Everyone's hiring.
Everyone's and I mean what Hein's getting at is these large companies are not making use of efficient technological solutions. It's posters in the windows. So it's something that we are testing. I mean, it's we've went to check it out, and Kenya was this perfect opportunity. We were really blessed with Emmanuel making contact and wanting to get involved. So that's something we're running kind of on the side. He's doing it full time, and we're really testing out the market to be able to duplicate something, because I mean Africa is part of our vision of employing the world, and it's something that should be easily duplicated, which we thought, and I mean we've started proving that, or we've started seeing that with what Emmanuel's been doing. I mean, I think we're sitting at about 4,000 users in Kenya, and Emmanuel's really such a champion. So getting there, not the next 2 months as you mentioned, but as soon as we've found leeway or some winning recipes in South Africa, then we'll look at expanding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, guys, this is freaking awesome. And if we're looking at stats, I mean, just prior to coming here today, the things which common stats which I mentioned, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it as well, but private households, transport and mining have had the biggest declines in terms of unemployment this year. Youth unemployment is at 56.4%, which is massive, obviously.
It's ridiculous.
The unemployment rate for women is 31.3%, for men 27.17%. Is there a particular way, hearing these numbers, where you're like, okay, so we're in the space, we're a player, and I don't know if this question kind of makes sense, so I'm trying to figure it out here as we go as well, but how is it that now you hear these numbers and it's like, cool, well, we need to lower the unemployment rate for women, we need to lower the unemployment rate first and foremost for women, and then within these particular industries, private households, mining, is it also knocking on mining companies' doors and being like, hey guys, we've got a solution for you?
No, so it's a super good question. So we do try and focus on, your markets that really have been overlooked. So, I mean, about, I think, 70% of our users are women. So, I mean, that's something we really do try and concentrate on. And we've noticed that companies have also really started stepping up with regards to that. I mean, these stats are something we do mention to companies. And but to answer your second question with regards to industries, so I mean, we are open to to entry level jobs that companies have vacancies for. But at the moment, we've kind of started looking. Okay, cool. We targeting retailers at the moment, figuring out their processes and then kind of dominating them. Then move on to the next industries. We haven't specifically excluded or not focused on various industries such as mining or so. But for now, I mean, we are only a small team, so we do only have the infrastructure to take on so much. And we've decided rather to take on it in a sustainable way than just opening up ourselves for every person to come in, every industry to come in, and then losing grip of the entire spectrum. So as we're sitting here, me and Anna are itching to take on every industry that there is to really help eradicate this massive problem we have, because we know we have the capability, but we do know what we don't know sometimes. So we've surrounded ourselves with really cool strategic mentors and people to help us stay focused on aspect per aspect. And in that way, we've noticed that we dominating, moving on. So it's really cool.
I think to add to that, practically with regards to the 29.1% unemployment rate. So from JOBJAC's perspective, if we can enable businesses to fill the jobs that they are not able to fill at the moment, then there's a few 100,000 jobs most probably out there that can be filled. And then secondly, for an economy to grow, obviously, or for more jobs to be created, the economy needs to grow, and anything basically such as JOBJACK that enables companies to operate more effectively creates an environment where they can grow. And then lastly, my viewpoint is that the most important part of the company is the people that work for the company. And if you are able to get the right people in the right companies, then that would also enable the companies to grow and then hopefully employ more people. So not a direct, or apart from filling unfilled jobs that are just remaining unfilled, not a direct impact, but an impact in a way.
It's really grassroots. I love that completely. And obviously they can change the company culture because they've got the quality now and they can focus on obviously onboarding for anyone is quite expensive as it is. They want to make sure they're not wasting time, nor money, or resources, and making sure they have those right candidates come through. I think is crucial, and it's so great to hear like where it's coming from and the mission and the message behind it. I think it's really powerful. It's really, really powerful. You touched on it briefly now, but sort of segueing into the next question was, have you had any opportunity for partnerships? Has anyone reached out and said, I love what you guys are doing, let us get involved either financially or either marketing you guys, or have you had any experience with that yet?
Yeah, so I think something that we're excited about that we're actually working on from a tech perspective is the ability to allow organizations that help with getting people job ready and that help with training people to integrate with JOBJACK. So there's hundreds of organizations out there that focus on helping people to just get job ready, to know that when you're working with a client, look them in the eye, the bare basics, and then there's people that dive in deep and find people that are really struggling and spend a year or 2 or 3 with them to really get them employable. That sounds terrible, but that is the reality in South Africa. And to then connect with those institutions, allow job seekers to sign onto JOBJACK, to say, I've been through this course at this institution, and the institution can then say, yes, this is true, they get a badge, and that relationship or the fact that they then went through that training increases their probability of actually getting a job, because companies will realize, cool, these job seekers have this and this and this training that we never knew in the past, and they are maybe better for the specific position.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the fact that you just brought up that the tech side of it as well. I've seen, obviously, you posted a couple of days ago, I think it was, on your own LinkedIn, JOBJACK LinkedIn, how appsafrica.com, you guys have been a part of the, you're a finalist for disruptive innovation, for the disruptive innovation category. How does that make you feel? Is that it's a whole different space perhaps that wasn't even on your radar a year and a half ago. And now it's like you're disrupting tech space, an app space in Africa, and you're a finalist. How does that make you feel?
No, it's great. It's a great validation. Obviously, it is really cool, and we're super, thankful and blessed for being nominated. But at the end of the day, we need to deliver results. We have a mission to get, to employ the world. So that's just showing that people are seeing the value that we're adding. And that's great. That just helps motivate us to say, okay, even though we're not there yet, we, taking it bit by bit. So yeah, it's cool. It's a nice motivator.
Yeah, it motivates the team as well.
Yeah.
That's just always good.
Yeah, well, congratulations to you guys. Hope that it pulls through. Would you know when the date would be when you guys share?
7th of November.
That's us. Is it?
Yeah.
I think it's the 11th actually.
Oh,
Lucky buddy.
Okay. I'll celebrate on the 7th.
Double check that one. But I'll be looking out as well, and I wish you guys all the best. That'd be pretty cool. Last couple of questions, just to sort of round off. You really briefly mentioned on the kind of support that you've had from mentors or guidance. Is there any one or anything in particular that stands out that has helped either yourselves individually in this journey or JOBJACK as a whole up to this point?
I think, so we were recently part of an accelerator called Trigger Ventures. And that changed our whole point of view of business. Our life personally as well.
I want to say our lives.
Yeah, definitely our lives. But
can you explain why?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So Trigger Ventures is it's basically an accelerator. They recently also launched the academy, which is for youth entrepreneurs. But so basically, each year they select 12 ventures, and they go through a 6-month process of, and it is for myself and Heine. Our base is our faith. And it really helps us. It really carries us. It's the core of everything we do. So they are a Christian-based accelerator. But besides that, if you take that out of the picture and you just take it from a worldly point of view, they really showed us that everything we do just needs to be to serve your community, to serve your customers, and that whatever we do is really kind of a mission unto others, if it makes sense. It really conveyed to us. It's something a lot of people know, or you have it in the back of your head, but to see examples of people that do it, and in this accelerator there are I think over 40 mentors, and people that have done incredible things, like really, really incredible things, to be able to see how they've actually stepped into action of either giving parts of their companies away, either really putting out hours of their busy day to really go serve the most insignificant, if you will, person. Really showed us the value in putting yourself, last, and your customer, your client, any person really before you, and really every day aiming to make their lives better. And I think that's something we've tried to portray to our team and to each customer we serve, whether it be a business or a job seeker.
Yeah. Awesome. And excuse the naivety around this question, but is Trigger something that you just apply for online?
So it is actually. It is actually. They do have a few information sessions throughout the year. So you can check out the website as well. I'll send it to you, and you can go to the info sessions, or you can make contact with them. They're really such incredible people, great team, and yes, then it is actually just something you can apply for online, and then you'll go through interview, rounds, and they'll determine if your company is ready for this accelerator or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's incredible how, just thinking now, it's almost gone full circle from the first thing we spoke about, and your perspectives on pitching an idea, having that first step, having that action point from that point. It's good to have that idea, but to follow through and do something. And I think how I'm relating this back to what's post outcome podcast is that I hope to achieve with the podcast itself is that the idea for someone to be creative, be ambitious, get a bit sweaty with, scaring something that they scare themselves once a day and they follow through with it. That it could be anything, it could be personal or intimate, doesn't really matter, but actually following through with it and then seeing what could come of it. It's quite clear to see at the start of our conversation how the two of you have sort of had that upbringing or those experiences, and how the conversation then to join Trigger or to apply and get involved with Trigger. And there's loads of other, I suppose, organizations like Startup Ground in Cape Town as well. There's SME.Africa that are all doing very similar things that are helping to, build the confidence amongst entrepreneurs, amongst companies and employers, and as you say, have hope, push the country forward, which is awesome. Last two questions for you boys. Are there any particular tricks or tips that you guys do either as an office or personally that you guys have that are very sort of JOBJACK-esque?
Yeah, so I mean, we still pretty young. I'm 26 and Heine is 27. So I mean, we can't just sit still for longer than. Or okay, we do sit still for 12 hours a day, but so what we've incorporated, we have a little hacky sack. 10 minutes about twice a day, which is really awesome with the whole team. And besides that, we really try and incorporate getting involved outside of work as well. I mean, I'm privileged enough to be one of Heine's groomsmen, so that's just testimony to the friendship that's really come out of this whole process. And I think just part of what we do. I mean, every Friday, we just blast music. Can't now because we're having this podcast. But we just blast music and really just celebrate victories, even though they're small victories every Friday. There's some champagne and whatever the case may be, to really grow, to really help share knowledge, to really reflect on what we've been blessed with. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I can add another little example to add on to Christiaan is we have a bunch. So that's so we call ourselves the JOBJACK Pack. Okay. So it's the pack lunch. So once a week we sit together and eat, and we usually play some game or something. So just little things to keep the relationship and the team healthy and keep everyone motivated. And then I think something that I can add, which we actually learned, it's very, very basic, but we learned from one of the mentors at Trigger, is and it's personal. He basically, long story short, it's his advice for someone that's really, successful to overachieve and to be able to stand out among a pack of people that are really, achievers, if I can put it like that. So this is how I want to beat Christiaan at life. Then this is what his advice is. So he said that you must sleep enough. I know it sounds stupid and basic, but we've both started applying it, and it really helps you to perform. So sleep enough. Here we recommended 8 hours. We're going for 7. To exercise every day. So it's a challenge, but we are working on it. To eat healthy. So very obvious things, but actually implementing those things really helps. And then for us now to spend time with God and pray every day, but or meditate or whatever the case may be, just to
so I mean, something practically we've put in place. Both myself and Heine get up at 5 o'clock every morning, and then we have that kind of exercise and just get quite a bit so that you're ready for the day. By the time we get to the office at 6 or 6:30, we amped. We kind of ready to take on the world.
6 or 6:30, boys. That's
woo!
Just trying to miss the traffic, I'm sure.
It's only it's that.
That's it's very cool, and I'm going to include those. Those notes, that recommendation through in the show notes as well for those that are looking to shape things up a little bit their side. My last question for you guys is: word of mouth is exceptionally powerful for someone who's in perhaps a little bit more of a privileged position that has a job, but that has this philanthropic or humanitarian side that knows someone that's trying to get involved. How can they help JOBJACK on their mission to improve the world? What can I do in my car on the way back now assist your mission?
I think where the biggest, not problem, but the biggest thing that JOBJACK needs at the moment is more companies and more jobs, because we have these users and they are fantastic users. We just need to get them into jobs. So if you're working at a company and your company employs entry-level staff, which is almost any company out there, then get in contact with us and we'll drive through, come see you and see whether we'll be able to assist you, which is almost always yes. So I think that's
I think between that, intros just to any of those job possibilities, we really just there to add value. So we'll see if we can add value. Then if you know of someone looking for an entry-level job, so this is any job not requiring qualification, to refer them to our website. We always open to, receiving advice, giving advice. We're here to learn, we're here to solve a problem that's on everyone's heart. So,
Yeah, brilliant. And obviously the website, for those that haven't yet checked out, is just simple, jobjack.co.za. I'll include all of this in the show notes as well. Are there any other ways that people can get in touch with you?
Everything's on the website.
On the website?
Everything's on the website.
Perfect. Well, all of that will be up there, so you guys can have a look at it. There will obviously be a few of the cool points which Heine had mentioned now about shaping up or starting your somewhat morning routine and making sure that you're bred for success. And I'll include a good summary of what we had discussed today. But James, I want to thank you for your time this morning. It was awesome to dig a little deeper into the why behind JOBJACK, how you're actually making that difference, and hearing the numbers, I think is really, really important, and it's chilling to hear. But to know that there is people out there that are sort of moving the needle forward, I think is awesome. So I want to thank you both for joining me.
Thanks so much, Matt. What a privilege and a blessing to have this chat with you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.